Okay, good afternoon. So today we're going to demonstrate a simple exercise on checking the vulnerability of a website based on its SQL um, database weaknesses. Okay, so first we talk about the involvement of database in a website. So basically, if you take a look at this logic, so if you're familiar with web design uses three-tier model. We have presentation, application, and database. So in the presentation level, that is what you see on your website. It's basically composed of HTML and other libraries or languages that it uses. So now, whenever a user clicks something or opens something in a website, the application layer will fetch the value from the database. For instance, like in Facebook, you want to view your post. So when you click, let's say your post, the presentation layer is where the user selects, let's say, a particular post to open a comment. And then the application layer will send requests to the database. So database could be in an Oracle, MongoDB, MySQL, and so on. And the database will respond with what we call tables. So the language used by the database is called SQL. Okay, so the application layer now will send the data to the presentation layer to be displayed to the user. So meaning, example, if you're doing like online shopping, eBay, like that, so all the information about the products are actually inside the database. So if you do online shopping also, or you go to your online banking, so the information about your accounts are stored in the database. It's being fetched by a scripting language in the application using, for instance, like C#, Ruby, PHP, JSP, and so on. So basically, it's just being displayed on your browser in the presentation layer. So if you can explore the vulnerability of the database, you can actually get the contents of the database, which is kind of dangerous, particularly if the database contains a lot of sensitive information. Okay, so for this exercise, we're going to be using SQL map. So the process of targeting the vulnerability of database is called SQL injection. So SQL injection is a code injection technique where an attacker malicious SQL queries that controls a web application database. So if you're familiar with the SQL language, so you can create queries so the user can gain access to the information stored in the database. So SQL map uses a get parameter. A get parameter is simple. So it's basically if you take a look at a website, like for instance like this, so the website, actually this is the only URL of the site. This one, the question mark means send the parameter name ID with the value of 11. So we're fetching all the records of the ID value 11. Okay, so let's start now. Okay, so for this one, we're going to be using SQL map. And for our test website, we will be using this test PHP vulnerable vulnweb.com. So here we're gonna go to our application and you look for SQL map. Okay, so let's wait for that to open. So if you take a look at the SQL map syntax, so there's a lot of here. Okay, so options, like for instance, -H is for help. So let's say here for target, we want to target the URL. So we put -U or --URL. Then here we can set data, whatever data we want, or DBMS. So we will just use a simple instruction. So let's say clear first. Alright. So let's proceed now. So let's say, okay. So let's say I'll go to this site first and then I'll check this one. Copy. Categories. So we can open this one. I can just hold on. Virtual machine is a bit slow. Let me close my browsers. Okay. And then and cat equals 2. So basically we're sending a get parameter. We're trying to fetch whether a category equals where category is equals to 1. Sorry. So here let's try this SQL map. So the command is -u means URL, and then the URL you're trying to test --dbs. We want to list down the databases of this website. So that's easy. I'll just copy here. It's a bit slow. Okay. I think I'm gonna open another browser because Firefox is a bit slow on Kali Linux. Okay, so I'll just paste here. Okay, let me pause the video first and reconfigure my virtual machine. Okay, so if you take a look at this now, so in our browser we type here, so it's basically category equals to 1. It lists all the product with the category 1. So actually here you can just play around also. So you notice it fetches the value based on the category that you type here. So we definitely know that there's a database here. So we just need to get the database punya tables, or if we can exploit the vulnerability of the website. Okay, so here, in our Kali, so we can just type SQL map -u stands for URL. Copy the URL here and DBS. So we're gonna wait for the result of the scanning. Okay, so it's starting to scan the vulnerability of the website. Okay, test shows get parameter kite might be injectable, saying the possible database is MySQL. So we can just type yes here, then yes again. So doing a lot of tests, checking if we can inject the SQL. Okay, so let's take a look. But we need to know the database first. Hold on, it's gonna take a while, so I'll pause again. Okay, so the scanning is complete, and our first query is we want to list down any database from this URL. So here it lists down two databases that we can exploit. The name of the database is Quark and information scheme. So a database contains tables. So it's like, I'll show you an example. So let's say I have a local database set up here. So here, let's example, I have a database named Your Wonders. This one. So if I click this, it shows all the tables I have. TBL cards, TBL categories, TBL questions, TB user. These are tables. So similarly to this one, we can also see what are the tables of this database. So in order to do that, so we need to run this command, SQL map. Okay, the URL -d, the database, and list down the tables. So let's try that one. So -d, the name of the database is Quark tables. Okay, so try to see if we can extract, or I see the tables. So basically the steps for exploiting or stealing information from a database is we call this, we look for a URL, then we scan the database, and then we look for the table. So right now it displays all these tables. So we have artists, cards, guest book, pictures, products, and so on. So let's say I want to target the table users. So let's say I need to list the information first about the columns of a particular table. Like for instance here, the table name is artist, but I'm gonna change to users. So up to and then here same. So this one we already know the table database. So here we're gonna list down the table. So our table name is users. Okay. So it has to be capital T users, because the table name is users, and then -- columns. So columns of the database, like for instance if I click this, these are the columns niya, ID, full name, email, username, password. These are the columns of the table user. So we take a look at this now. -- columns. So we're gonna scan again. Okay, so you see from the table of users, we can see the columns are address, card, email, name, pass, phone, you name. So the next step is to dump the values of this one. So for instance, we want to know the value, so you can use this command. Okay. So actually the syntax is very simple. SQL map, the URL, the database, the table. Now we can see the column -- dump. Alright, so let's say I want to dump the column of the passwords because I want to steal the password or the name. So users column, let's say I want to know the usernames. Dump. Okay, it's only one entry, the username is test. So let's try with different tables again. So again, I'll delete this just to practice. Let's list down the tables again. say, okay, users again. I want to see the table users. Capital T, users, dash C, columns, to see the columns again. Okay, let's say I want to know the emails here. So capital C, email, dump. So it's basically we're viewing the content of the value of the database. So you see there's one email, email.com. Okay, so basically that's how you use SQL map to check for vulnerabilities of the website and extract or view the contents niya. Stop recording.